cuffs are off, man. Get right. Too many left.
Hey everybody, Adam Rank here.
What's up, friends? Daniel Dopp here from the Fantasy Focused Football Podcast over on ESPN.
It's Fabs here, Michael Fabiano from Sports Illustrated.
Hey fans, this is AJ Dillon of the Green Bay Packers.
I got to give a shout out to y'all at Get Right Fantasy.
You know who you can trust? If you've got some questions about your fantasy squad,
If you are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? You want to lose your league? If you want to check out a cool show on YouTube that'll help you get ready for the fantasy football season,
check out the Get Right Fantasy Network.
check out the Get Right Fantasy Network. You got to get right with the Get Right Fantasy Network.
Best of luck with your podcast. Appreciate the support.
Get you right. Enjoy the show.
And I'm getting down cause I want my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I want my sleeves up. And I'm getting down cause I want my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I get.
Yo, what's up, football fans? Welcome to another episode of The Extra Point. It's your boy, Phil Ruskin, hanging out with my guy from the Fantasy Football Tavern, as usual. I won't say as always, but I will say as usual, Mr. Kendall VanDerBilt. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We got the real NFL draft. We've got rookie dynasty drafts. We got all sorts of stuff to cover. But before we do, you have seen, I have no doubt, this viral question of the week: 100 men or one gorilla. I'm sure you've seen it. Conor McGregor started it saying he could beat up a gorilla, and so now it's gone viral, and every athlete in the world is saying, you know what, 100 guys or a gorilla who would win in the fight. I am firmly on the side of the gorilla. My question to you is, what animal do you think you could actually take on in a fight and win? And not like a canary, Kendall, like a proper animal. Like give us a thought on that.
Like the biggest,
The
most
big
like
animal
like the level
you
I could
think
like
you could take on and like maybe not win, but like at least survive. Like not because a gorilla would kill you. Let's be honest. Someone's got to go first, and I'm not doing that job. Even if there's 99 other guys behind me, like I'm not going first.
I'm not the strongest guy out there, you know. I might be the weakest guy out there.
So maybe the canary was a good
I'll
play
throw
for you.
this. I'll throw an animal that I think I can handle. I think most people wouldn't be able to. It's not because I can fight or anything though, but animals love me. And I've got a really I used to live in the country. Coyotes? Yeah, bring them over. No problem. I have definitely made friends with coyotes.
Okay, so you're going we're a lover, not a fighter, and the coyote would be like sitting by the fire drinking a beer with you by the end of the night, sort of a situation.
Me plus my coyote, I start grabbing the other animals that you're trying to fight against. You're gonna have a problem.
Okay.
I could go that route. That's my only shot at winning any bracket. Is I gotta like make friends. I gotta do the psych thing.
Okay, I'm with you. My problem is I clicked on these stupid links, and now I'm getting flooded with, like the different, like pick three, who's winning in the fight. 3 tigers, a grizzly bear, 100 gorilla, like all these things. The best one I saw was 10,000 rats. I would take the 10,000 rats.
Has somebody simulated this?
I'm sure somebody has. I'm sure
you know
AI
how there's
has
like
gone
StarCraft
and done.
simulators.
Yeah,
you can do it. I want to
imagine
see this.
Somebody has done something like this where they've simulated, 10,000 rats, 3 tigers, a grizzly bear against, X number of other animals. So,
you know how much more popular we'd be if we just did like a Steve Irwin AI deepfake voiceover and probably just did a whole channel of him narrating fake animal fights. We would be rich. We should think about that one day.
I mean, Jackie Moon fought a bear. So let's not forget the great Jackie Moon, trying to sell tickets for those Flint, Michigan tropics there back in 1970, whatever it was. But great movie, by the way. I love that movie.
You think I could take a bear? Is that like, it would feel bad for me? This is a lifetime
I don't think you could take
hard
a bear.
Feelings. It owes me a lifetime of misery.
Yeah, I don't think you could take a bear. Maybe like the mascot for the Bears, but I don't think you could take the actual animal bear. That's not winning.
Way.
You're not winning that bear.
Mascot.
So,
It'll mess you up.
if anyone's in the chat, tell us what animal you think you could fight in a fight and actually win. Otherwise, let's get to some football, man. Let's get to some real football. I want to talk about the draft. Obviously, first of all, the biggest. I don't want to spend more than 30 seconds on this. Is Shedeur going to have a shot?
Yeah.
Is he even going to? I think he is, right? I think he's going to have a shot. I wonder, is are we looking at the 5th round draft capital and are we burying him in dynasty drafts right now? We're not going to talk about him tonight. This is why I said I want to spend 30 seconds on it. We'll get to him later this summer when some camp news comes out, but it's got to be the ugliest quarterback room in the NFL. Does it not? Is it not?
I mean, a little bit.
I mean, aside from like you don't get me started on Deshaun Watson, because I've made my feelings on this show perfectly clear about how I feel about him as a human and a football player. But I just don't like it. I can't get behind it. So you think he's going to have a shot to play inside? Let me give you the over under. The schedule's obviously not out, so we don't know when their bye week is. But let's just, for shits and giggles, week 8. You think he starts a game before aside from like catastrophic injury to everybody else? Do you think he starts a game before week 8 or after week 8?
No, I think later. It's my take on this one's pretty simple though. I think he's being slightly underrated because the NFL did no, we're going to show you something.
Yeah.
I actually think he responded okay. I like Colin Cowherd's take on it, where a lot of people would take a bad approach to what happened to him, and at least his public take is gratitude. What was quote one? I want to go in. I want to show respect to the veterans. I'm just like, he is a kid that's stupid and took some bad meetings. I think he at least has a good enough leadership to know how to fix mistakes and understand consequences, right? I think he'll grow up fine in the NFL, better than like Kyler Murray has a starting job. He's an immature.
Agreed. That's good. That's good. That's a good point.
I don't think Kyler Murray's that talented.
I also agree
he's not
with that.
tall enough to be good enough. Like, he's fine and he's doing good things, and we overhyped him on a few talented qualities. Shador will be fine. I just don't think he has enough ceiling for us to keep talking about him. But yeah, he's going to start. He's going to get the job. I do think Dylan Gabriel was a wasted pick. It was more of like it took the pressure off of the Shador pick later on, just in case. But yeah, he's going to be fine.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Look, I don't care what size league you're playing in. I don't care what your format is. I don't care what your scoring system was. If you're in the chat, tell me and Kendall that we are wrong, but Kendall and I have I did of my 15 leagues, 9 or 10 of them have already drafted. Kendall, I know the majority of yours have. Obviously, we're in some leagues together. In every league that I have drafted, Genty was the 101. It did not matter. Scoring format, size of league, super flex. I saw a guy who desperately needed a quarterback who had the 101 pass on Cam Ward. And I have absolutely no problem with it. So we're not going to talk about Genty tonight, because I think unless there's someone in the chat that's going to say, has a really great take that you and I don't have, I don't think either one of us are super stoked on Cam Ward's outlook. I think he's okay. I think he profiles as a high-end QB2. We'll see what it really looks like once camp gets started and once the season begins. But Genty was the 101. So to me, Kendall, I think the 102 was really the first decision of the draft. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. But it's a trick question. The first decision is, do you take your 101 and flip it for value?
Okay, so I'm sorry. I'm saying let's say
risk.
Sorry, so I'm saying if you're on the 102 and you've decided you're not trading up, like that was the first real who am I picking, right? Like if I'm on a super flex, am I taking Cam Ward?
Or the 102 is so good where it's but do I throw together something to try to move up? That's the real first decision is, am I moving down or up? And it's a real question. I think everyone with the 101, we just saw Marv, right? Everyone's going to have the thought. It is a thought. I have a take on it, but I think the easy take is if someone's willing to overpay, be willing to listen. But that's everyone's take, right? How aggressively do you pursue it a little bit? He's going to be as hyped as it gets in 6 weeks and in 6 months. So if you don't sell now, he's only going to probably increase or maintain neutral. Price, I think.
Agreed.
So you don't have to pressure sell.
No, I think the smart move was to take Genty regardless, and then if you get someone that's going to give you the world, sell him later. I mean, at the end of the day, the kid, I believe in the kid. I had the 101, and I'm in a league that I'm about to bring up and show the draft board that we're going to go through here in a couple minutes. I took him, and I feel great about it, and I know he's never taken a snap. But Bijan had never taken a snap. Gibbs had never, and we can go all day of guys that busted versus guys that outproduced their ADP versus guys that were drafted that highly that actually produced or outproduced what they were meant to do. So I do think it's interesting because in the most of my leagues, and I'll pull this board up, actually, we'll just go ahead and get started here. This is a 10-team, single quarterback, 6-point passing touchdown, full PPR league here. Kendall, you're in this league with me as well.
Oh, yeah. I love this draft.
Yeah. So this one was interesting. Only as you can see, if you're listening to the show, you can hear that there was only 2 quarterbacks taken. Cam Ward was not taken until the 209, again, single quarterback league. So not super surprising that a quarterback wasn't taken, but 209 still late. But if you can see the board, Amari and Hampton at the 102. And that's the pattern that I saw the majority of. One of my leagues, Travis Hunter, went at the 102. We'll get to Travis Hunter in a little bit, but I saw a ton of Genty, Hampton, and then I saw a real mix, 50-50 of running back run versus a mini wide receiver run. So talk us through, the 102, the 103. Let's leave the trades out of it tonight.
Mhm.
Where did you see some real value? Is there a player maybe that was drafted heavily in your leagues at the 102, 103 that maybe you think was a quote unquote reach?
Hampton was 102 in 12 of my 12 leagues that I've drafted.
Okay, interesting. So pretty solid in that term. So,
and this includes Superflex. So there was not a single Cam Ward at 1-2, or really even thought about it.
Victorious, great fan of the show, always here. I know it's been a minute since he's been with us, but in single quarterback,
he lives in my town, by the way. I learned this a while ago.
You should go get beers.
We need to, by the way.
Just make that happen.
We got to do it. We got to make that happen, man.
Single quarterback, he says he thinks Hampton is the only in all caps option at the 102. I don't disagree. I think Hampton is the clear 102 as well. So let's do it. Let's talk about then the 103, because we're not, by the way, if you're listening to the show, we are not going to go through this slowly every single pick, but I do think at the top of the draft, it's important because these are the most premium picks, right? You don't know, hopefully you're not drafting this highly again because you're drafting in the back of the draft because your teams are making the playoffs. That's why you listen to this show. It's why you listen to other shows, because you're trying to get your teams into the playoffs and win championships. Everyone is going to have this debate, and I think they're going to have this debate for a long time. At the 103, is it Henderson? Is it McMillan? Is it Hunter? How do you see it? And let's start there, and then we'll dive in on a little nuanced.
A little bit of a split in my drafts. Right now, Hunter is leaning pretty heavily. I'd say 80% of drafts, Hunter's going 3. The hype, it's easy to get on the hype train. I feel like I know these people in these drafts, right? So the psychology of Hunter was clearly 4. They saw what happened. There's this massive hype train around him, and now all those questions of like, how do I evaluate this? Well, he's going to play 100% of offense, and we'll see about defense. And I think everyone's like, it's just too interesting to pass up. And I think now it's like the worst case scenario is he's just a really good wide receiver. And because the worst case scenario is still a fine outcome, now he's like the safe 103, where previously it was, God, the worst case outcome is pretty dark. I don't want to talk about it. And whilst having the 103, this shouldn't be a thought while you have the 103. Now it's easier thought. So I think he's kind of the consensus 103 now.
So I'm going to say this because I know we'll get to him in a little bit, and I want to talk more about him in depth, but I did not get a single share of Travis Hunter. Not because I don't think he's a good player. I just didn't. I either had the 101 or I was in the middle in like the 5 to 12 range. Like I wasn't really anywhere in the 2 through 4 where I could realistically take him. So in this draft, if you're watching and you can see the screen, you see McMillan actually did go 3, and then Travis Hunter went 4, followed by Travion Henderson and Kinshawn Judkins. To me, those are the 5. I'm going to call Genty the blue chip, and I'm going to call the other 4 kind of the gold standard players, because I don't think those 4 other guys, maybe Hunter could eventually get there. But again, I'm going to talk about him in a minute. Like, to me, those were the big 5. There's all, we talked about it last year, right? It was Marv, it was Neighbors, it was Rome. That was kind of it. After that, it was like, there's good players. You're going to be happy with some of the guys you drafted.
There was little mini tiers after that, right?
Yeah, but like those, those were the 3 premium blue chip guys last year, not outside of the quarterbacks, right? In last year's draft.
Yeah, it feels like 101 is a tier of its own. 102 is now a tier of its own, kind of, because we're even seeing in Superflex is kind of still going Hampton. And then, like you said, I think the rest through 106 is a flat tier, which is kind of interesting.
Agreed. Yeah, I think at that point, even in the first round, you're kind of shooting your shot. I do think it's important to talk about some of these running backs, and we'll get to them here in a second. But let's talk about Travis Hunter, because in my mind, he should have been the 103. I can justify the 102. I saw him in a league. I don't have that particular draft up, but I did see him go at the 102. And that was also not just a super flex league. That was a start 2
I can
quarterback
justify
league.
the 102. Still not
Yeah.
personal preference, but I don't think it's a terrible pick.
So I want to hear your thoughts on Travis Hunter. What's his range of outcomes? What's his ceiling? Yeah, and just talk us through it, because then I'll get to my thoughts here afterwards.
Yeah, sure. I don't have a player comp, by the way. I think it's kind of disrespectful almost to try to comp him to someone else. I don't want to do that to what I do think is sort of a generational, maybe not talent, but generational in terms of what he's doing, what he's being put into, what he's doing to my brain and fantasy players' brains.
Yep.
Which I thank him for greatly. Appreciate you, man. He's a top 5 wide receiver, top 5 dynasty wide receiver is his ceiling outcome. Fact is, he has looking at Matt Harmon's reception perception, he's elite across the board in ways that only the elite wide receivers that are, can't miss do. Particularly, I think he's going to be talented in the red zone as well. Even if he's not great everywhere else, his ball skills are just too good to not catch 10 touchdowns. So I think his ceiling outcome is it's an offense that resembles the Bengals, where it's hyper focused to 2 targets. They both have some big playability. So in ways that Miami was also very Waddle could take a 7-yard slant to the house, and then Tyreek could on the next possession. Some of those games where they put up 48 really fast, like third quarter, and it's over. I think it could resemble some of these offenses, the Eagles, Miami, the Bengals, hyper-focused onto 2 positions. Because they're so good, it provides a synergy rather than a taking away from them. And what it does is means all the touchdowns go to one of them. I think it's just pretty good. So high-end outcome, he's basically BTJ. There's just 2 of them, right? Not an exact comp, but he's just 1,000-yard high touchdown. It's just a really elite, like a better version of T. Higgins, right? His low-end outcome is he's like a Mark Andrews, but at wide receiver, where, he's high touchdowns, but he's just not on the field on every play for everything and doesn't get enough consistent, like Amon-Ra sort of PPR elevated targets. If they try to spell him a little bit and he does more of a Tyreek had some weird scoring lines this past season, even the season before, right? He can go 4 for 4 for 200. He can go 4 for 4 for 55. I think he could be frustratingly inconsistent as a low end outcome where he still explodes, but not enough. So like he could finish his wide receiver 24, 26 and have a 30-point game. That's sort of the low outcome that I see.
Yeah. I'm really glad we did not plan that, by the way, in the green room, that you just said inconsistent, because I love that you just did. That's a perfect segue for me. That is my fear with Travis Hunter, is the inconsistency, not because of his play as a receiver, not because of Trevor Lawrence and Jaguars. It's simply because of the fact that I think they're going to let him play defense at some point. I want them to. I think at the end of the day, they traded up. I don't have the trade in front of me. I know it was an additional first. It was a huge trade. It was a huge trade, right? I want the kid to succeed. I want him to be the first player in the league since Dion to play both ways. And I want to see it. And I think everybody wants to see it. And he wants to do it. And I think they traded up because they're going to let him do it. I don't know when. I think Liam Cohen, first-year head coach in a division that's, let's be honest, not that good. We all sat here last year, you and I especially sat here last year and said the Texans are going to run away with this freaking thing. And they didn't. They won the division, but they didn't run away with it. If you remember, I think it was down to the last 2 games, right? They had to go to Indy and beat Indy. And then I think they got to play Tennessee on the road or something and smoked them. But I think Indy also did what they always do and went to Jacksonville and lost. I think that's how the Texans actually ended up winning the division, was because they can't win. The Colts can't win in Jacksonville. But my point being is that this is a division that is wide open. And I do think the Jaguars will, I ripped them last year and said they're awful. Don't touch them.
You nailed it. I
did, but it was like, I don't think it's going to be that way this season. My fear with Travis Hunter is that he's not ever going to be, he can't be the overall wide receiver 1 because they're going to let him play defense. I don't know if he has that. I don't know if he has that level of Jefferson Chase talent anyway. So I don't know if I want to put him and anoint him even that he could be that, the range of outcomes, right? So in that second tier down, can he be the number 3 overall receiver in the league? Possibly. But again, you've got a BTJ next to him, who's also an absolute monster, and he's only in his second season in the league. They're going to spread the ball around. They took Tootin late, which was the big question was, are they going to, I thought they were coming up for Genty, because the draft speculation all week was the Jaguars are going to come up at least to get ahead of the Raiders because they know
they were
Raiders are
making a
gonna
big
go.
move, right? I think
Well,
they were making a big move. This was just the one they made. Genty
and
was
maybe-
a smaller move, to be honest.
And maybe the smoke was, let's get everyone thinking we're coming up for Genty to keep it off of Hunter.
Do you even think it was smoke, or was it the most honest fantasy football trade? This was, I'm going to make a move. I'm going to send an offer to every single person in the league, several of them. Okay. I'm making a trade today. I got a case of beer. Let's go. I mean, the guy is he's younger than us, GM.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. I don't think he had time for smoke and mirrors. I think that guy was on the phone for 24 hours straight.
I'm sure he was on the phone. I'm sure he was on the phone for him since the combine. He's probably.
I don't think he remembered what he traded.
They probably,
those deals where you offer multiple years of your roster for that guy. Like, I think he did that. I don't think he remembers if you ask him what he traded.
Probably, right? It's that. It's that Will Ferrell. What happened? I blacked out, right? When he said, "That's how you debate," right? In old school, right? That's what happened.
Yeah, and honestly, I'll clap it up for that guy. Look, football makes money not because it does the world a bunch of good. It's entertainment. And that guy's 100%. Entertaining with what he 100%. Just did. It was awesome. Travis Hunter should thank him because his jersey sales just skyrocketed with all the stuff, right? Yeah. I mean, no, I think you're right. Inconsistent, but
I sat here last year and I buried Xavier Worthy because I didn't think he deserved to be that highly drafted. I didn't think he was a first-round talent. I thought he ran his way into the first round. I didn't think he was a good draft pick last year, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Worthy, Mahomes," and he didn't have a great season. He didn't. And so I don't think that's the case with Travis Hunter. So I'm bringing my Worthy take up to say, I'm not burying this kid. I just think his ceiling is lowered in its cap because I do think they're going to let him play defense. So I think if you drafted Travis Hunter, be excited. He's going to be a great wide receiver in this league. I think he's going to score a ton of fantasy points. I think he's going to have his weeks. BTJ and Travis Hunter cannot score on the same play. We talk about this with every single Higgins and Chase cannot score on the same play. We talk about this with every single team in the league that has multiple viable high-end scoring fantasy options. Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. We've talked about these types of teams before. So I think there's going to be weeks when it's a Travis Hunter week. I think there's going to be weeks when it's a BTJ week. I just wonder if it's a BTJ week and they let the kid play 20 defensive snaps that week, what are you getting? That's my concern. That's my only concern with him is you could get 4 points. And you could get that anyway, right? Jamar Chase went out and T. Higgins went out and goosed healthy last year. We've all seen it. It's just it's rare, but we've seen it. My point being is I just think that there's additional risk that we have never seen before. And so I think if you are someone that draft is the last thing I'll say, and we'll move on because we have a lot of other players to talk about. I think if you got Travis Hunter at the 104 or later, you got a fucking screaming value.
Yeah.
Screaming
at the 104,
value.
Just stop thinking.
Stop thinking.
We can get into Travion a little bit because I'm steamed up on him, and I do think there's an argument for not an anti-Travis Hunter take, but you can just be in on Travion. I think it's a fine take. My last thing I'll say about Hunter, just really quickly, I think it's a take that no one's saying. I'm not sure why they're not saying it. But me and you, you were a better athlete than me. Actually, we should really need to play. We need to get actually, now that I just said that, the competitor in me says I don't care how old I get, I'll still mess somebody up on the court. We need to get a ball down. We really do. We should do this for draft picks one year.
That'd be fun.
But I digress. What I was getting to is you hear running backs talk about this. Sometimes I think Marshawn Lynch would talk about this occasionally, where he would say, guys, from a running back's perspective, you got to understand we're living, breathing with the defense. We're seeing, we're hearing, we're experiencing. You just take us out every couple plays, we come back in. We're not there. You need rhythm, right? There is something about he'll be tired. He's an elite athlete. Football has a lot of breaks. Really does. TV timeouts and everything. You're going to be just fine. So part of me thinks this guy's going to be locked in to the NFL. He's going to be locked into football. He's going to be locked into the team. The team will be locked in on him. I think he is going to be the most locked in player in every game he plays. And if he's smart between the ears, I think his additional snaps on defense, he's going to pick up some stuff. And I think it's going to make him situationally very dangerous because I think he's going to get some pick sixes out of nowhere too, because I think he's smart and I think he's going to figure it out. So for all of the, he's going to play too much and it's always, always, always a negative take. Part of me is asking, why is it negative? They're all in great shape. He's in fine shape. He'll get enough spells. Is him being on the field more a terrible thing? I'm not sure it always is.
I don't think we're going to move on, but I'll answer your question. I know it's rhetorical, but I want to make this counterpoint. I just feel like every single defensive snap he plays is at least one offensive snap that he rests.
Fair.
Think about your goal line backs, right? Right. You think about those guys, and I'm trying to think of a good example off the top of my head, but Achane does all the work to get it down to the 1 yard line, and they bring Mostert in and he just grabs that 1 yard. You know what I mean? It's like you get all of that work. So my point is like that's his goal line vulture. Is his defensive snaps, is him vulturing his snaps offensively from himself.
Yeah.
That's
every
comp.
Patriots running back ever, right? Yeah.
Well, Victorious, do we think BTJ is the Mike Evans and Hunter is the Chris Godwin in the Cohen scheme? Probably.
Opposite. I think it's opposite.
You think it's opposite?
Yeah, I think BTJ is more big slot like Cooper Kupp, where he uses
fine.
his size to create a mismatch, where BTJ is one of the few, or not BTJ, Hunter is one of the few people that has hands ball skills. He catches the ball with his hands, not his chest. That's very much a Mike Evans trait as well. They can do both. They're very versatile players, but I think in the role they actually use, I'd flip flop that.
Did you hear that, Quentin Johnston? Catches the ball with his hands and not.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, QJ. Biggest bust.
I was
biggest
that guy's
wasted first round pick ever.
All
right.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Travion Henderson and Kinshawn. I want to talk about Judkins because I do think that those two are kind of in their mini tier of running backs. The reason, if you're watching the show there and you can see the board, the reason we picked this draft was we kind of felt like it was representative of our own individual tiers. Obviously, Genty and Hampton, we felt were Genty clearly the head of the class RB1, but Hampton, to be fair, I think we talk about this every year. Like if there was no Genty, Hampton would have been the clear 101. And that's kind of how it was with Bijan and Gibbs. And we can go through all these previous drafts. We won't, but go ahead. Let's talk about Travion Henderson. I just want to ask you this to kick off your take. You like the landing spot. You're excited about the landing spot here.
Yeah, very much.
All right. Yeah, let's do it.
Organization's a little bit newer in terms of the leadership in the organization, how they go about things. I think when they commit to something, because they're sort of the new Patriots, right? Their commitment to Drake May is going to be at a very, very high elite level, right? I think their commitment to Travion, because they're sort of a newer Patriots, I think it's going to be a very high level commitment. I think they see him. They looked at what Detroit's doing in other teams, and I think they said, look, we want to emulate this a little bit. It's copycat league. I think they are going to give him a lot of work. I think he's an elite pass blocker in addition to what else he brings. So he's going to be on the field a lot. Usually big play guys like him, you think, oh, he won't be on the field a lot. He's a great pass blocker, great in protection. So that's going to keep him on the field a lot. I see high usage in high touch situations, and I think the offense is going to be better than we think. I like Drake May a lot. I was big on Drake May over JJ. I pounded that. I think, I got a couple other things wrong, but I got that one right.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. This is basically a rookie season. I mean, it is a rookie season for JJ. So
yeah, a little bit. So we're gonna have to see. So for those reasons, I think the team's committed to giving him a lot of high value touches. And I think on top of that, he's phenomenally talented. But outside of the talent, some people didn't like the landing spot. I'm in on it. I think the team committed in a way they haven't before, and I think he's really going to be their guy at a close to a Gibbs-esque level. I think he's going to be more like Chase Brown, but more talented in terms of his usage. Really like the landing spot. I think he's just safe. I have him over Tet right now because you give the running back the ball and they produce points. I know Bryce Young has to give the ball to Tet, and I still do worry about the long-term implications of what that could be, and I don't have that with Travion.
So it's interesting you mentioned this, right, with Drake May and then putting a ton of weapons, and perhaps no team put more weapons around their team this year than the Bears. We'll get to your Bears in a bit here with some of these players because Ben Johnson made it very clear. I'm going to give Caleb every reason to be successful. If he can't do it now, he can't do it. I'm putting that out there, and I'm putting that on tape, and I'm saying that if he can't do it now with this group and this coach, who we have seen the proof in their own damn division,
then just send us Jameis Winston and we'll be just fine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Then the questions are going to be really asked about Caleb. Is he really that good or does he suck? So we'll cover that another time. I like Henderson. I'm not going to disagree with anything. I also would put Henderson above McMillan. I didn't pull we have a different draft. I didn't pull that one, but that was a 12 team, also single quarterback. That one had 4 straight running backs, but even before Travis Hunter came off the board. That draft went Genty, Hampton, Henderson, Judkins. And then it went Hunter and McMillan. So I think people were excited about this running back class. I think these 4 running backs are very exciting. I like Kinshawn Judkins. I think it's a great landing spot for him. The Browns have not signed Nick Chubb. It doesn't look like they're going to re-sign Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford is in the building. And
you saw the Jerome Ford. So Jerome Ford restructured his contract. Was that today? He restructured. He had almost $4 million due, and I think he structured that down to 1.75. I think to stay with the team.
Yep.
Basically, he took the minimum amount of money he could to stay on the team, which means Nick Chubb definitely can't come back. So he basically said, "I want to make sure I sign somewhere, not a practice squad." So he's on the active roster for a minimum payment, and Nick Chubb will sign elsewhere now.
I thought Judkins getting drafted. Excuse me. I thought Dylan Sampson getting drafted was the goodbye Nick Chubb draft pick. When they took Judkins, I thought, okay, maybe Judkins will come in. They'll try to restructure and get Nick Chubb on a cheap deal, 2-year, what they can whatever he'll take to just stay there and just like basically groom Judkins to be the guy. I think they're ready for Judkins. They're going to hand him the ball in week 1 and say, okay, kid, go figure it out.
He seems like the new Chubb. Fits the type.
And look, you hit the nail on the head. It's a copycat league. Every single team right now, if they're not looking at what Detroit did, then they should be. Because Detroit has set the standard for what the running back room, if you get what do they call themselves? Sonic and Knuckles, right? If you get that kind of a 1-2 punch. Now, I'm not saying the rest of the team in Detroit's not awesome, because they are. The rest of the offense is fantastic. But my point being is you can't stop that running game. Gibbs comes off the field, Monty comes on, like, get out of here. That's not a rest for anyone. That's just another battering ram you got to stop, who's sure a little slower, but like, it's just another big bruising back. So I like Judkins. I think it's a great spot. I want to pause here, Kendall, because to me, these first 6 picks, regardless of the order in your own personal drafts, yours, Kendall, and then other listeners, Genty, Hampton, McMillan, Hunter, Henderson, Judkins, to me, that's the top 6 players. And then I think there's a tier break.
Yeah.
Are we in agreement on that?
Even in Superflex, that's my top 6.
I agree as well. Okay. So let's talk about this second tier of players here, the 107 to the 110 in this league, but the 112. This is where I started to see a lot of parity in my leagues. And again, we're not going to go through every single pick, but my question to you is, let's say it's a Superflex league. Where do you have Cam Ward? You can see on this board, this is obviously a single quarterback. He didn't go until the 209. It's a 10 team. So he went with the 19th pick, the second to last pick of the second round. But at what point are you grabbing Cam Ward if we all agree that the first 6 guys we just mentioned are the top 6 players?
107.
He's
almost in a tier in and of himself. Okay. For me, if I had to really granulize mine, he's 107 for me.
Is that because of the talent, or is that because of the position? Because it's a quarterback and it's super flex.
Position mostly. He's really close with RJ Harvey for me. I've got RJ at my 108s. It's really close. It's league and team dependent. What I mean by that, right? And I won't go long on this, but because we can bring up the take for several other players and occasions. But the idea is, if you need a quarterback, there's and you mentioned this even in the green room, right? There's some draft philosophies. There's best player available. There's team need. There's best market available ADP. Like, there's your rankings and there's ADP. There's I'll draft value to sell the value, right? It's not necessarily best player if you trust yourself more in the league, right? So there's really 3 buckets there. What I'm getting to here in particular, right, is I think it's a valuable position, right? If I need a quarterback, I'm going to have to overspend on it, is my point. There's no way you buy a quarterback cheaply. You can try to buy them cheaper, but you just don't buy them cheaply. You tend to, even last season, what could you get Will Levis for? You offered a 3rd, you got turned down. You had to spend at least a 2nd round pick on Will Levis, because that's how quarterbacks go.
Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, you can't. I don't think you can get him for mayonnaise right now.
I mean, exactly. Right. So my point is, I don't overspend when I don't have to, but the reason I do that is because you have to make prudent planning and decisions. If you're a quarterback needy team, I'm not taking Cam Ward because I think he's my solution. I'm taking him because if I don't, I will spend probably an extra 3rd or a 2nd in free extra overpriced value, because that's the market for a quarterback when you need one. And when you need one, dude, everyone knows you need one, man. They're sitting pretty. So if you're going to overspend later, I'm going to take it at a fair price that I set instead of overpaying later. That's why I take him there.
Let me ask you this.
Tremendous value.
we didn't talk about this yet. I think this is the right time in the show to bring this up. I'll just use myself as an example because I was able in a league to get a trade done to get up to the 102 to get Hampton. But outside of that, I didn't see any trades inside the first 6 picks. I think these players were just too valuable. I think guys wanted them, right? I think there was just too much that was necessary for teams that needed to, or for managers, I should say, to go find a difference maker, an impactful rookie starter that you could at least flex early on and then hopefully get into your starting, your starting positions later. At the 107, was that where you were first looking to maybe trade down? And that's what I want to talk about, is trading down, because I actually traded down several times in several of my drafts. And I saw a lot of guys in sleeper hitting the, at all willing to trade down here, because I think the value you talked about earlier, this flat tier, I think this is where it started to hit. I think this is where it's like kind of call your shot. There is a player here that I want to talk about that's been a big riser, but is this where you maybe started to look to make some moves? And if not, where did you look to make a move if you were looking to trade down in the first round?
So my pre-draft, like for my drafts that started like the day after the NFL draft, where I keep it real close to the chest, right? The market consensus, you just talk to people, right? We have our chats, our group chats. Everyone has their own people they talk to or people they listen to, right?
Yep.
Everyone said the early part's chalk. Everything else is, we'll see.
Yep.
Everyone said trade up. Everyone said you can't really, well, trade down, but trade out, right? They're not even saying trade down. They're like, hey, if you're in this range, it's all the same. Get some future value and pick up a second or something, right? That was the trade down. It wasn't like trade from the 107 to the 110, because it was like, it's the same player. I'm just, like if you can get more for the same player, do it, but no one's going to do it.
Right.
Here's what I think. I think in one quarterback, it's less realistic. I think in Superflex, because there is the potential of where are the quarterbacks going to go, it actually creates a little scarcity and urgency to make it a more realistic trade down.
Yep.
I liked RJ Harvey so much. It was just, he's my late target. So I'm not going to trade out of it. I think I can get him in a lot of spots because his ADP was depressed a little bit. Let's say it's next week, though. Harvey's super popular. He's chalk. He's moved up right now. So let's say the 107 goes and let's say Harvey goes 108 or 108. We're getting into his future picks, right? But it's a little bit later. I would trade down if it gets a little bit later. For me, I still like Harvey there, and I do still like Caleb Johnson. After that, I think we can kind of get into some new ones. I really didn't see the trade down, but don't hear what I'm not saying. If someone offered me a lot, I would take it. I don't think the market felt good about, if everyone agrees this is sort of a trade down spot, and almost every show said it.
Yeah.
Who's your market? Who's taking that deal? In my experience, sending 100 offers out just to feel, I was pretty nice about it. It was just, hey, what do you think? Right? Like I'm open to it. Everyone 10 out of 10 times was just saying, dude, we think exactly the same about this pick. You might as well just make it because we're all waiting on you. Yeah. So I don't think it's realistic to trade down. I think you're going to spend a lot of time. The better strategy, focus ahead on the second round before it happens, before spending time trying to trade out of a pick you're not going to get anything for.
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting because you can see the board here. I had the 6 and the 7. I took Judkins and Egbuka. Judkins to me was the easiest pick of the 2. And then I sat for a while at the 107 because that's, again, flat tier, Egbuka. I saw Golden go there. I saw RJ Harvey go there. I saw Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland go there. So it was like, again, we talked about these first 6 guys, and then it was almost call your shot as early as the 107, regardless of 10-team, 12-team scoring format, Superflex. You mentioned Cam Ward. I think this isn't necessarily a flat tier. I think it's just a we don't know what we don't know yet tier. We have no camp hype. We have no news. We have no injuries. It's just pure projection. And I think if you're looking, and this is where it gets, we talked about this in the green room, but if you're looking at your roster, this is where you had to make a decision. Am I looking for a player that I think is going to help me win this year? Am I looking for the best talent? Am I looking for the best dynasty player? Those 3 questions, because I think Egbuka could end up being the best dynasty player. I don't think Egbuka,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think Egbuka is going to have a great season this year. Mike, outside of injury, and everybody can get injured on any play. We know that. And Mike Evans has had his history and Chris Godwin's had his history. We get it. But my point is, like, if they stay healthy, unless we have to presume health, that's how we draft. He's not getting high value targets with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin still in that offense. And Bucky catches passes. Bucky's at like RB 5 or 6. I've seen him as high as that right now. Like people
bought him for the 107 straight up, and
yeah, people are hot and bothered for Bucky, and I love Bucky. I got Bucky on rosters. I'm excited about him. I've got him penciled in as an RB2 in certain spots. I'm not downplaying Bucky, but my point is that I think people saw Matthew Golden as he's going into the team right away because Christian Watson can never stay healthy. Jaden Reed is either hot or ice fucking cold, right? Romeo Dobbs is Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, Dante, you know what I mean? It's like, you're not excited about it, right? People looked at Luther Burden and they went, is he going to play? Because now you have, and you've seen the blueprint with Detroit, basically carbon copy in Chicago now with your Bears, where there's 5 legitimate options. You got 3 proper receivers, you got a running back, and you got technically still 2 tight ends. Everyone's burying Cole Kmet, but like Cole Kmet's going to be there this year. And if my memory's
he's a good
right,
blocker. I don't think he's good
2
for
years
fantasy anymore, but if we're trying to run the ball, he's good. He's a good blocker. He's a big guy.
which means he's going to be on the field.
12 personnel, baby.
12
Everyone's
personnel,
forgetting. We're going to
right?
run a lot of 12 personnel.
So I think this tier is really like Trey Harris. I didn't see Trey Harris go in the first round anywhere, but I saw him go to 201, 202, 203. But is Trey Harris going to get on the field and play this year? Probably. It's Ladd and insert player X here. And I mean, if Trey Harris can't beat QJ for a job, that's bad. That's bad.
Yeah.
So that's my point, right? Like people are excited about Jaden Higgins. Steph Diggs gone, out of town. Tank probably going to miss the whole season. So that's where I saw people really saying, like, do I put a player into my team that I think can help me this season, or am I taking an Egbuka or potentially a Burden? Because a lot of people believe in the talent of Burden and say, I'm going to give it a year because that's what you have to do. Because Rome didn't. I mean, we both love Rome. Rome didn't light it up. Caleb was awful. Bears were bad. There was a million reasons, but like Rome didn't kill it. He didn't neighbors it. So,
yeah, you bring up an interesting point. I can wrap that little segment of players up with that a little bit, unless you want to get into the tight ends a little bit. But the idea
I want to talk about them separately. Yeah.
If you're gonna do some preparation, right? This pick is interesting in that there are 3 different philosophies to pick from when you're looking at the later half of the first round. And I think that's a fair range. It's a big range. Every single individual pick in the first round going up or down one spot is massive. We know that because when you're up on the board, even if you were waiting on one person, as soon as they pick, you're like, I have to restart my entire thought process. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
So here's the thing. You need to do some homework on team need versus BPA versus, way more importantly, what's your build this year and next year? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Agreed.
Because the second, third, and fourth moves that you make in terms of who you draft, who you trade for, who you trade away, they're all correlated, right?
Yep.
This pick is going to set up the rest of that dominoes to either make sense or have anti-synergy.
Totally.
Okay. That's how you make this pick. Now, don't go too crazy into what you need because we always say don't do that. But if you're going to overspend on it because you didn't pick it, well, then you lost value later on anyways, right? So you really need to do not some mock drafts, but watch completed drafts like we're showing you, right?
Yeah.
And put yourself in that spot and run the gamut in your head. And I think that's going to help. Like for me, there was some leagues where, look, I'm not going to win this year. And now what's going to happen is I'm going to take Egbuka because he is the safest future value. If you want to bet on an LSU or Ohio State wide receiver, you win every time.
Agreed.
He will be good in the Baker laser offense, right? It just might take a year to see what he does, or an injury will happen and he'll just be lights out.
Well, and that's
this year, right?
And
I
that's
think
the most
he's
likely
pick
outcome
for that league, though, right?
Yeah.
If you are in a league where, look, you're already pretty. If you're a more win now, Caleb Johnson or RJ Harvey would make a lot more sense than Egbuka, right? If you're gonna have to spend a second round pick on piece of shit tight end, you know, if you're gonna have to way overspend on a tight end because you know you need one and you're about to run out, I don't know who you're gonna run out, then that's the case for, are you gonna spend a first round pick on Kittle or something to trade up? If you're gonna have to overspend, why not maybe at that point consider tight end? I'll be the first person to say I'm lower on both tight ends and I'm using them as my, you better really need one. But that's the last thing I'll say on that.
So I'll just say this, because I mentioned it at the beginning of kind of this topic. I found myself trading down more in this year's draft than I ever have done in previous year's drafts. And not because I wasn't certain about the player I wanted to take. I felt it was such, after these first 6 or 7 guys went, I'll put Cam Ward into that 7th slot because I feel like he is in a super flex league and maybe even in a single quarterback, probably deserving of that consideration. Maybe not that pick, but that consideration. I thought it was a pretty flat tier. And I went and found, and this is if you haven't drafted, if you're listening to the show, if you haven't drafted yet, and you find yourself at the 108 to 112, go see if you can get 2 seconds. Go get 2 of these guys. Someone's going to be excited to come up and get a first. Go get 2 seconds. Get it in this year's draft. If you can get 2 2s in this year's draft, I think a lot of people will be excited about that deal. Because if you look at our board here, right?
Or if you have the space, grab a third too.
Yeah, but I'm saying like if you could go and grab an early second, 4, 5, 6 picks later, and then go and get a couple of extras in 26. You and I made that trade. I knew you were coming up for Harvey, not in this league that we have on the board, but we made another trade. It was the 203, if my memory's right, maybe the 204. I think it was the 203.
Yeah, it was 203. I remember that.
And I was getting ready to click the button on Harvey. And then I thought to myself, I'm pretty heavy at running back. I'm pretty loaded in that. I think I have Bijan in that league. And I don't remember. I've got a pretty deep running back.
You're
room.
up there. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I got a pretty good crop. So it's not that I'm not saying RJ Harvey's not going to help me. And I don't think he's a good player. I think RJ Harvey's going to be a great player. I think he's going to have a great season. I think he's going to be I think he should end up being one of the biggest. He has been one of the biggest risers. I think he's going to be one of the guys that outproduces his draft stock in a big way. But I got 2 2s and a 3 out of it from you.
And they were 2 pretty good tickets on like 2 Trey Harris's, right?
Well, that's what I think that's who I ended up taking was Trey Harris later in the 2nd round from it. I got a 2nd next year, which I needed because I didn't have, and I got a 3rd. And it was like at the end of this,
you were going to trade a running back for wide receiver anyway, like you were.
Always do.
This was trading your draft pick running back for a wide receiver that, by all intents and purposes, if they hit, are worth a first, not a second. So you gave yourself a chance to win the trade, right?
And that's it, right? At the end of the day, none of these guys have taken a snap, and you just don't know. So it's like I'd rather get more draft capital, and that's what I found myself doing a lot in this draft was saying to myself, if I can get 2 2s for a late 1, if I can get a 2, a 3 in this year plus a 2 next year.
Only caveat I'd say that is make sure it's the first half 2. The 207 plus is very different than the 206 early because we can get to that. There is a tier break at the late 2nd. I think the late 2nd is the same thing as the mid or the late 3rd. It's all the same. The early seconds have a significant tier break of extra value with that wide receiver group we're talking about. That's like after that, I don't think the wide receivers are really, they're very questionable. We'll put it that way. But the landing spots for, I think it's really a Golden, Harris, Bird, and Higgins. I mean, it's back that kind of 4, 5, 6 range, right?
Their range of outcomes right now, Burden's is, I think, the lowest because of his situation outside of an injury.
He can't be the one. He's the 2B at best in terms of ceiling in year 1. Yeah, I think that's fair.
And DJ Moore is what, 1 year into his 4-year contract, or is he 2 years into his 4-year?
I think he's into his 2nd year, but he just turned 28. He's like a young 20, or he might be 27. He just turned 28.
But I think this is year 2 of the 4 years.
He still has 2 full years left. In addition to this.
No, I think he has 3.
I mean, this year plus 2. Yeah, so yeah.
So I'm saying he's got 3. Yeah, so it's not like he's halfway. Yeah, he's not even halfway through that contract.
You're gonna make your 27 pick, and he's still gonna be on the team.
Correct. So, all right, let's talk about these tight ends. Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren. There was a lot of debate. It seemed pre-draft Tyler Warren was very clearly the 1A and Loveland was the 1B. And then I think all of a sudden the Bears go and grab Loveland at, what did they pick him at? 8? 9? 10? Oh, right before us? Yeah, you guys were right before us, huh? And then Warren goes, I think, at 14 to the Colts there. So we're talking 4 or 5 draft spots, not a big deal, but I think the offense in Indy is, we don't even know who the freaking quarterback's going to be right now. We like Ben Johnson in Chicago. Obviously, I want you to, it's your team, it's your Bears, it's your group. But it seemed very clearly, except for the draft that we're looking at here, this is actually the only draft where I saw Warren go ahead of Loveland, which is also another reason we picked this draft. Obviously, they went back to back. Talk us through Colston Loveland. Did the draft pick change your opinion? Are you worried about Cole Kmet? There's a lot of options, a lot of mouths to feed now with a quarterback that we have questions about. So let's talk about these tight ends. Start us off with your guy, Colston Loveland.
Cole Kmet, nice guy, good dude. Won't be good for fantasy. Good tight end. Tight ends do more than just catch passes in the real NFL, right? Sure. He's going to be good at the real tight end stuff. He won't catch enough passes. Cole Kmet's dead. I've dropped him in 2 leagues. with our
Yeah,
super
I
flex
saw
tight
that
end.
today.
I dropped him in tight end premium. Okay. I dropped him in a start 2 tight end, full tight end premium. Okay. He's done.
You're out. Okay. That's an endorsement of being out.
He's done. He's done. Okay. It's no problem. It's absolutely no problem at all. My challenge is I don't love Loveland to that extent. Let me put this in perspective. I love the NFL and I love my Bears in a different way than I play fantasy football. Let's just get that straight, right? Here's my challenge with Loveland. Okay. Tell me why he's just significantly better and will produce significantly better than Tyler Kraft.
Tucker Kraft?
Tucker Kraft. No, he's Tyler Kraft to me now. That's
He's Tyler Kraft, you know? Okay.
Yeah.
His mom.
If I don't trade him to you everywhere.
His
But
mom
here's
is
my
not going to
point.
appreciate that.
No, significantly different talent profiles,
Yeah.
right? But Kraft went to a high snap share, pass heavy, explosive offense. He has all the yak and he does quite well, and he just wins the job straight outright and does quite well. And now he's generally a top 7-8 tight end, right? Right around that range, right? He could elevate into that next level, but it's really tough. It's just tough to see the path to a talented player on a good team, right? Can you see Kraft like really leveling up, or just a little bit better?
No, I mean, I don't think there's a world. We talk about this all the time. Like, what's the ceiling outcome?
So
Tucker Kraft cannot
yeah.
be the overall tight end one.
He just can't. So here's what I'm getting to. My deep dive on tight ends pretty much says this. There's a few things that matter at tight end that don't matter at other positions, that pass catching positions, specifically wide receiver here, right? So athletic profile is more important at tight end than production profile. Wide receivers is not quite the case. You do really need a production profile. Tight ends, you can have terrible production and be a great NFL tight end because college works very different than the NFL, right?
Sure.
On top of that, you need to be the number 2 or the number 1 weapon on your team. That's
Agreed.
where tight ends really have elite production, is when they are schemed as at least the number 2 weapon. When I do all my homework on this, it's way more about where they fit into the offense and projecting and predicting that. That's where we can be accurate as fantasy analysts. I don't think Ben took Loveland to throw him a million passes. Okay. I'm the only take I'm really going to go really deep on. I think he needed a Laporta that was specifically good enough at some routes to make some of his pass catching play concepts work, but they're not for Loveland. Loveland's draft pick is to make Rome and to make DJ Moore fully work. I don't think it's so that Loveland can work. I think it's a brainiac with a book that's saying, I need this molecule to be able to do this because it's going to affect the defense in a predictable fashion. I'm just smarter than everybody else on. But he knows that Cole Kmet will not make the defense react in a significant enough way to make his play concept work. His playbook needs Loveland, right? But Loveland is not necessarily the beneficiary. That's my as elevated take as it gets, and that's why I'm kind of off Loveland for that.
Yeah,
reason.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I hate hearing that I agree with you and saying it out loud because you're looking at my board and I took Loveland here. Warren was my pick. He obviously went the pick before me, and I just scrolled down to see. I was like, wait, why did I take him? Because I have Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and dog shit on the rest of this roster. So I needed a tight end. And look, for the sake of everything you just said that I agree with, I hope we're both wrong because I need some freaking touchdowns out of this kid at some point. But I don't need him.
I have Warren below
season.
Loveland, but hey, let me make you feel better about this. I mean, real quickly, okay? Warren projects as his a higher possibility of being the number 2 weapon on that team than Loveland. Right?
100%.
The problem is tight ends on bad offenses, even if they're the number 1 weapon, don't matter ever.
Well, the biggest question, and we've got Victorious here saying, I like Warren Moore. He could be the Colts' most targeted player. Shane Steichen could use him as a crutch for Richardson. I agree with everything in that sentence except for the last name. We don't know that Richardson's the quarterback. It could be Daniel freaking Jones.
He doesn't throw to tight ends.
I don't even know who he throws it to. He didn't throw it to him. I think he ends up throwing it to the Gatorade boy.
Color?
Yeah,
yeah, he's pretty good at that.
So does Richardson.
I don't want to
Richardson
bury the
to the red
guys.
team a lot too.
My take is I'm just lower on both. Okay, their landing spots are worse than their prospect profiles. I think they were net negatives. I think people that are saying, "Oh, Warren's a great spot on the Colts." I'm like, I like JT in the Colts. I don't like the Colts passing attack.
That's the other.
I like that Josh Downs.
Still a run first offense.
Josh Downs will be JSN. He'll catch 10 passes for 10 yards, and he'll get a lot of PPR points, right? I do see that risk in Warren where the offense just isn't good enough to elevate him to a level where it makes sense to have other problems. I like him. I think both are fine picks, but I do think it's only tight end premium and when you need them. The chance of like who you pick one or the other, though, I do think it's honestly a coin flip because we have to call the take. I don't think there's a way to say like for this reason, he's definitely better. I think it's niche situation, call it or be wrong.
So I do think I want to just switch gears for one more minute. I do think Mason Taylor is an interesting name to bring up here. I think people are excited about him. I don't think a lot of people knew who he was, to be fair, coming out of LSU. And really, this draft was all about Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland. Which one of these guys is the next Brock Bowers? Which one is the next Sam Laporta? And fine. Bowers and Laporta at the tight end position have done for the tight end position what Jamar Chase and JJ have done at the wide receiver position. They have spoiled it because we now have this we now have this proof that this illusion of a rookie can come in and do this. It can be done. We saw Justin Jefferson light the league on fire as a rookie. We saw Jamar Chase light the league on fire as a rookie. And then we saw Laporta and then Bowers do it at the tight end position.
2 years in a row, rookies.
Exactly. And to be fair, Neighbors didn't finish as the wide receiver one, but he damn near did everything he needed to do to prove to us that he's the next iteration of rookie wide receiver, just lighting the league on fire. So I think Mason Taylor is interesting. Justin Fields, a lot of questions about Justin Fields, but who's the head coach? Aaron Glenn. And where did he just come from? And I think you're going to see a lot of that Detroit blueprint, not the same stable of players that they have in Chicago. Different type of talent, right? There's less of it in New York than there is in Chicago. Ben Johnson, the Bears were bad last year, and I'll be honest, I think the coaching was the problem. Mm-hmm. Caleb could be the problem. We don't know. But I don't think Caleb is the problem. I think the coaching was right. I think the coaching was the issue last year. I think the scheme was bad. I think the players are misused. It was just poor.
If Fields all of a sudden becomes really good, then it'll be like every Bears player ever.
Yeah, right.
I remember when Cedric Benson was bad, and then he was good.
Totally. I mean, my point being is this. I think Mason Taylor is going to have a role in that offense, similar to what Laporta has had in Detroit. I think he's going to be used. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being a very viable fantasy asset for tight end position as a rookie. So,
dude, I'm glad you said my take is so in line with yours. I don't hate Loveland or Warren, but I am below market.
Yeah.
And I am above market on not so much Fannin, but I like Ferguson and I like Mason Taylor. I like that Mason Taylor's cheaper, but also has that chance to be the number 2 pass catcher, which is where I think tight ends have a chance to get additional. Remember when Mark Andrews was a 3rd, 4th round pick?
Yep.
But it was an ambiguous pass catching core, right? And that's why I drafted him. I would rather punt on Taylor Mason than reach for Warren or Loveland when I see higher upside and also more consistent targets.
Agreed.
At the tight end position, for every Bowers, there's a Pitts.
Okay?
But the hit rate on running backs and wide receivers when you take them at the right place with the right profiles, the hit rate's just too obscene. I don't want to lose my draft in 2025 because I took Loveland or Warren too early, right? You took Loveland, but you have Genty, right? And I know your team build, and that makes sense for your team, right?
Well, I have 3 firsts in this. This was our neighbors trade.
Yeah. I mean, you have firsts for days here, which for Loveland makes a lot of sense because by the time you're ready to compete, Cole Kmet will be gone, right? And DJ Moore will be less of a person, and Caleb will be better. And all of a sudden, Loveland is probably looking more in line with kind of how we look like Bowers light because he's a pass catcher like Bowers. He's not so much a Kittle. I think that pick makes a lot more sense. Loveland's ceiling long-term is way better than Warren, I think, with the quarterback situation. So I think it's an astute pick.
It should be. I mean, that's in theory, that's what it should end up being. But we will.
You have to not believe in Ben Johnson for it to be an overt bad pick, though, right? Like it could still be neutral, you know.
But again, I mean, I want to talk about this for just 10 seconds here. 29 years old, 8 years in the NFL, never once finishing as a tight end 1 ever. Excuse me. And if you're in a 12-team league, in 2020, he was the tight end 11. Last year, he's the tight end 4. Name that player.
Last year, he was the tight end 4.
Tight end 4 overall in the league. 29 years old.
At 29 years old, tight end 4. Wow, how do I not have this? I don't know. I actually don't know.
Jonnu Smith.
God, I was thinking of all the other almost Jonnu Smiths. Like I was
Right.
like, what's a better Gesicki? Yeah.
Right.
It's a good call.
And that's my point. I'm not saying that he's going to consistently do this, right? But we know tight ends take time to develop.
Trey McBride,
right?
2 years.
But it's only 2 years. It's only 2 years, right? So like that to me is still like a very early, and we expected McBride to be a better player. We didn't expect the Bowers type. My point is this. It takes time for these guys. Kelsey wasn't Kelsey for a while. Andrews wasn't Andrews. When Kelsey and Andrews were in their prime, when they were what would have equated to basically a wide receiver 1, they were the receiving option 1 or 2 in their own offenses. It flowed around them. They were getting yards. They were getting touchdowns. They were over 1,000 yards each. They were double-digit touchdowns. That's what you have to have with that talent. But now we don't have those two guys anymore. Now we've transitioned to McBride and to Bowers and Laporta. So I don't know. It becomes a point here where I could see Mason Taylor becoming an important player at the tight end position. Could he have one of those outlier seasons? Cade Otton had a pretty darn good season. He won People Champions. He finishes the tight end 13. I was looking for him, but then I was like, that's not a great example. But Jonnu did dog shit for years, and then has an outlier season. Pitts was drafted at like the 101 in certain leagues when he came out.
You remember him in Dynasty Startups? My God.
Dude, he in Dynasty Startups because you and I only do auctions when we do startups.
He was
going for more than most of the receivers were.
Yeah, it was nuts, dude.
It was insanity. So, I want to talk about we're right on it here. Actually,
we can do part 2 as well. I got
maybe
time.
we
If
should.
we wanted to split this up into part 2, we can do.
Yeah, maybe we'll come back next
You
week.
want to cover that first tier wide receivers or
no? I just wanted to ask you this really quickly, and then I think we'll kind of wrap. Is there somebody on this board that you think is mispriced, screaming deal? Or is there someone on this board where you're like, I don't want, let's just do that one. Let's do that one first. Because I think we kind of talked about maybe don't reach for the tight ends and don't draft them too high. And the reason I'm asking you this is because there are still plenty of people who have not drafted their rookies yet. Right? I know most of the rookie drafts were done over this last weekend and week. But is there somebody on this board that stands out to you as great value, or hey, in the next week or two, if you're getting ready to get on the clock, expect this guy to potentially move up?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Keep in mind when I say I'm picking in the first 2 rounds here. So when I say screaming value, even 1 or 2 picks is a screaming value when it's this tight. It's Bashal Tutin. It's definitely Bashal Tutin. It's for 2 reasons. One, he's a screaming value already. Shout out to the Dynasty Domain guys. They did a really nice job on his profile, but basically for the round and place he was picked, he has the best athletic overall profile for a running back picked where he has in NFL history. He's basically the best back picked as late as he has ever. So people think he got picked late. He's the best player in the history that's picked that late in terms of profile, right? So he's actually a much better player than where he went.
Yeah.
I very much expect one of the other running backs in Jacksonville to get moved.
Agreed.
This is a GM that he's ready to go, and he's going to go in his direction, his way, and he has no memory of anything before him. He doesn't have room for it, right?
Well, the guys he got are not his guys.
Nobody else even exists to him. We see that historically with GMs and head coaches that kind of come in, right? And he has to do it on pretty low. So the idea is the cap hit and the investment in their current running back room is really low. They can get out very, very cheaply now or later. So I look at Bashal as a guy that, look, in a couple weeks, if someone's traded, he is skyrocketing. He's going way up to the early 2s. He's so much closer to RJ Harvey and will be than he is close to Blue or Devin Neal that are going a little bit after him, right? Or Brashard Smith, if you want to take a shot on him, or all these other dart throws, Giddens or something like that. The idea is Tutin is way closer to the top end guys than he is the lower end guys. And I think it's 1 or 2 moves away from him completely jumping that tier of like Harris, Burden, Higgins, Beck, right? Golden, I don't think belongs in that tier. I think he's a tier up, but I do think Tootin could jump that entire tier by the end of the draft process. By the end of that, and I'm drafting him wherever I can, and I'm trading up because everyone else is seeing other people trade up for other players, and they're thinking I might as well too, but they'll ask for less, and I think you can pick him up as a realistic value.
Yeah. I want to double down on something you said. You made a really interesting point. You said even 1 or 2 picks in this round can be a screaming value. Here's an example come to real life. 2 seasons ago, rookie draft. I'm on the clock. 205, doesn't matter. Say mid-second. I don't remember exactly the pick. I was between Jonathan Mingo, and I needed a receiver. And you know me, I love my receivers. Jonathan Mingo was at the top of my board. Devin Achane was the number 2 player on that board when I was on the clock, and I took Achane.
Oh my God.
I took Achane. And the minute I had immediate buyer's remorse.
Kincaid probably went off the clock just before Achane.
No, yeah, he did actually. But I had immediate buyer's remorse. And it was so much so that I sent one of the guys that was actually after me. He's one of my best friends. So I didn't even bother to send him the trade. I texted him and I was like, Mike, give me 24 hours, but what do you want for Mingo? And he was like, I don't know. I'm kind of high on Mingo. I'm probably going to keep him. And because he goes, man, I'll probably do straight up Achane for Mingo. And I was like, well, give me 24 hours. And he actually texted me back and he's like, I think I'm just going to stick with him. Do you know how fucking glad I am?
Put that.
To this day, I have never forgotten that. I'm so glad you brought that up. Because I'm like, could you imagine, Phil, if you had taken Mingo and like let Achane go like, oh, anyway, it does make a huge, huge difference, right?
I mean, he's the wide receiver too in Dallas, though, Phil. I mean, come on.
I mean, the Dallas is like the scene in the Joker with the we're gonna have tryouts.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
No, you bring a good point.
I want to talk about 2 guys.
Scadaboo's another one, but you can't buy him anymore. I was going to say Scadaboo last week was a value. He ain't no more.
The problem with Scadaboo is I think it's going to be more of a timeshare than people want to admit.
Dude,
I like Tyrone Tracy.
Go buy Tracy for a third. Go buy him for a third right now. You can't.
People are still stoked on him. They think he's going to be the guy. That's the problem. People are thinking that Tracy's going to be the guy because he had a great rookie season last year. And I'm like, you know what? I think it's going to be more of a timeshare. Again, it's copycat.
Go buy Jalen Warren. Go get some.
Yeah,
Jalen
well,
Warren, the real running back one.
So here's what I think you need to do in this late second, third round. You need to take your shot on one of these Houston receivers. You need to take a shot on Higgins and Noel because there is no more.
ADP is kind of moving up though. He's a riser. He's not really moving past the 3 or the 4 lately.
But Noel is still in the third round, and you can get him in the third round.
One of those simple, like just take the cheaper guy.
Dalton Schultz is old. They don't throw it to him. They haven't thrown it to him to a ton. Mixon had a great season, but he's getting older. He's 28 years old. I think Mixon's going to be fine this year. They're going to utilize him the exact same way they did last year. I have no issues with Mixon for this season, right? But at the end of it all, it's Nico and then insert receiver here.
And Nico can't stay healthy.
Nico's had his issues.
I think they drafted 2. They drafted 2 because, guys, what if Nico still can't stay healthy? Like, what?
Well, and Tank's, I think Tank's going to miss the season, or at least most of it.
Yeah, I think he's going to start. I need to miss for 6 weeks.
I think exactly. I think 6 is generous.
No, week
I would
7.
put it. I would put it. I would put it at 8 to 10.
Yeah, that makes sense. You see, it's one of those
it was
like
November.
He could
it was
play.
When was his injury?
He'll realistically be able to play before he plays. He's not going to play because they're going to slow it down because they're going to get rid of him.
Dude, he just had another second surgery on March 5th. He's missing the year, dude.
They need to keep him healthy enough to pass a physical when they trade him.
March 5th. That was 2 months ago.
I mean, think about it. If you're the team, this is one of those like, is if you can get healthy, we can trade you for $20.
Yeah.
If you're
you
never
need to
healthy,
go take. You need to take some shots on these Houston receivers in your drafts because one of them's going to emerge. Hope you get the right one. I never do this. I didn't do it in this draft, but I did it. Oh, actually, I did it in this draft. I took them both in this draft. I don't love doing that. I actually hate doing that. But again, you and I'll figure, we trade and we do all kinds of, not maybe you and me personally, but like you and I will always trade guys out. If the second pick's in the third
round, you've just doubled down on your dart throw in a way where you have a more meaningful chance of having like a high level outcome.
The other player that I would take shots on at the very end, stick him on your taxi squad because he costs you nothing. He is free. Is Jalen Royals.
Oh yeah, I like that.
We talked a lot about Jalen Royals when we had Shane on with us from Draft Sharks. He was very excited about Jalen Royals. And again, Xavier Worthy's fine, but Travis Kelce's getting old. We have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with Rashee Rice because we did not get a suspension last year, and we still may not.
Still rehabbing too, so the chances
Still
of
rehabbing,
elevated.
Rehabbing, re-injury, potential suspension that has never been talked about that could end up resurfacing because the NFL always does things like that. They did it with Alvin Kamara a year later. They've done it with there's a long list of names of guys that didn't get an immediate suspension. And then in year 2, the NFL revisited. So it's possible
Even
that he
just gets on the
time through
field for those 2
suspension.
games, right? Like 2 games of when you wouldn't normally be on the field is just enough.
And Hollywood's had his own injury history. He's 27. I know the Chiefs are excited about him.
It could be an in-season trade to somebody else who needs the help.
If Royals and Worthy, because they're both younger,
they get rid of the loaner.
That's exactly right. So I just think, again, he cost you nothing, and it's a Patrick Mahomes offense. They love big plays, and he's a big play guy. That's what he did at Utah State, and that's what he can do here. And he's a different type of player than Worthy. You know that Worthy's going to be the field stretcher, and you absolutely know what Kelsey's role is. I do want to say this, and then we're going to get to this last question, and we'll wrap it up. Isaiah Pacheco, huge draft winner in Kansas City. Huge draft winner.
Pacheco?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I thought for sure they were taking a running back.
Yeah, that was
huge draft winner. So, all right. Tito Laywood. I butchered that. That's terrible. Tito. That's all I'm going to get out of it.
You got some picks, bro. Hey.
Yeah, you got all the picks. He says, I have the 101. Oh, my God. Take a deep breath. You ready?
We could never be in the same league together because we play the exact same way.
He has the 101, 106, 11, 111, 112, 202, and 326 firsts. His question is, would you trade the 101 and a 26 first for Justin Jefferson? Am I crazy for not wanting to take this deal and sit and take picks in this particular draft? Kendall, I will turn that to you first.
Obligatory. You already know what I'm going to say. Actually, one of the 2 things I'm going to say. I'm only going to say one, though. That 26 first, that's everything in this deal, right? Knowing your competition and being able to project and forecast what the moves they could make to make that pick the 112 or the inability to make that pick anything good, right? Like if that pick is projected to be earlier or if they could make it later. If that pick has a chance to be the earlier half, no way I'm doing this. Because you're telling me if I could take the 101, which is currently worth almost 3 first right now, it's crazy, and it's an amazing landing spot, and actually I'm kind of loving it more and more and more. And you could also be sitting with the 102, 103, 104 next year, like another Hampton or something. That is worth more, and if I'm looking at all your picks correctly, it's more likely that you had a rebuilding somewhere in there and restocked, right? So you're set up for a push. When you're set up to win, Jefferson's going to be good, but you're going to have multiple like top 10 talents. I'm actually going to stand pat. If you tell me that 26 first is projected to be the second half, I'm taking Jefferson immediately. Not even thinking about it. I'm just going to take Jefferson because you can sell Jefferson this season for 3.5 firsts and just kind of profit if you needed to, kind of. But if so for me, it's the 26. If it could be early, I'm going to take the shot. Actually, I'm going to do it. But if it doesn't look likely to be early, there's no way I'm doing it. It's really all about that first.
Okay. I have a different take on this.
Ooh.
I have a different take. I actually have 2 takes.
I'm curious. I'm very curious.
Here's the first thing I'm doing. Number 1, I don't know if this is super flex or not. That does make a difference because next year's Tito's in the chat. Tito, let us know in the chat what the league settings are, bud. If it's super flex, where it's obviously 12 team because you have the 11 and the 12, but let us know.
But they're not winning. So this pick is not late. This pick is like 107, 8 latest, but it could be earlier.
So here's my first thought is this. I'm taking my later first and another. You just said it, 3 firsts. I'm doing everything I can to keep Genty and give up the 3 firsts for JJ and get them both. That's my first thought. Can I give up the 10? Can I give up the 10? See, the problem is I like the 106. Can I give up the 11 and 2 firsts next year for JJ? Because that I would do to keep Genty. Because I do think Genty has a chance to be the generational talent.
I don't trust the quarterback throwing Jefferson the ball, and no one is throwing Genty the ball. He's just going to get 20 points per game with the worst offense in history, even if that's the case. I'm keeping Genty, man. I don't think there's any way I'm not doing. I'm officially
That's what I'm
doing
saying.
it.
I'm
love
trying
you,
to keep.
JJ,
I'm
but
trying
not
to keep.
doing it.
I'm trying to keep Genty and get JJ. That's my point.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Because again, you're looking.
I'm
you
on
and
your side.
you and I trade differently in terms of the way that we accumulate picks, but we both think similarly when it comes to actually structuring our teams. We're looking for the highest ceiling outcomes.
Yeah.
You can't name 5 players in the NFL that have a higher ceiling than Justin Jefferson. You can't do it.
Yeah,
you can't.
His yardage is the thing that separates him. You look at everyone else
Outside of an
touchdowns,
outlier season or an injured season for JJ. And again, everything we do presumes health. You cannot name 4 players that has a higher ceiling. Jamar Chase, I would put Neighbors in that category, and then the running backs, the Bijans and the Gibbses. That's it. Those are the only players. Genty has the potential, from what everything we've read and researched and heard and seen, he has the potential to be a player a year from now that we are saying is worth 3 first-round picks.
6 years younger. I mean,
but Saquon is finally, for the first time in his career, on a real team.
Like what
Mike.
if he's Jefferson but 5 years younger at running back? Like,
sure, that's why I'm not giving him up.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
Here's my other thought, because I see what's in the chat. Tito saying the Raiders fan has JJ, so I get the appeal.
Yeah,
I would, if you are this hot and bothered for JJ, what I would say is this. Before you make this particular trade,
hang on, keep going. 30
package
seconds.
package some of these guys in the late first round to try to move up and trade up, Tito, in this draft to get to Amari and Hampton, because I think there is a drop off from Genty to Hampton, but I don't think it's a massive drop off the way that you're going to lose value when you get to the second half of the first round. The 106. We just had this board up here. Travion Henderson and Kinshawn Judkins went in this draft. But if those guys go earlier and they have been getting pushed up the board, now you're looking at receivers. The drop off from Genty to these receivers is huge. The drop off from Hampton to the receivers is huge. I mean, you're talking about potentially Emeka Egbuka. That's not close. So I would say right now, if you're going to get JJ and make him the centerpiece of your wide receiver room, try to trade up so you can get one of these other premium running backs, because you can afford these picks. Because the 111, 112 in my mind, they're fine. They're first, but they're basically seconds. They're not, you're not premium firsts, right? Tito's in the chat. He says he has, I'm not that hot for JJ. Good. He says he has CD, Neighbors, and JSN. I'm not making this trade. I'm not making this trade at all now. That's what you should have started with.
Yeah.
But I would still do this then. Okay, so let's change it. So he has CD, Neighbors, and JSN. Let me pull up this menagerie of picks. I would still package the 11, the 12, maybe even the 6, and I would get up. I would get up the board. That's what I would do. Victorious is in the chat. He knows I did this. I had the 101 in the league that he and I are in together. I packaged the 109 and something else. I don't remember. The 109, Kyron and Mixon, something like that. And I got, no, it was the 109 and Kyron, and I got up to the 102 to get Hampton. So now my running back room in that league is Genty and Hampton. I just rebuilt my running back room and got way, way younger. So that's what I would do. I would package these later first, and if you need to throw something on top, then you can, but I would try to move up the board and get real young at running back, because this is a big running back class. And next year, I like the quarterback class already. Drew Aller is fantastic. They're already talking about Arch potentially coming out early, which...
And Nussbaum looks okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys in this class that look okay. This quarterback class that we just drafted, yikes.
Yeah, not great.
I literally wrote an article that said, if you need a quarterback, sorry, boys, this ain't your year. So,
yeah. Tito, keep hitting us up, though, man.
Yeah, and if you're not subscribed, Tito, jump in, man. Hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us out. And I don't remember this name, so it looks like he may be new. So we appreciate you being here and certainly interacting in the chat with us.
Tito, the point is we're nerds for this stuff. So like the biggest thing I can tell you is, even if you give us no money or support, we still love this game. So just like find us, right? And like message us to like remind us that we haven't given you enough like advice or we will group text this for an hour and forget who we were sending it to, because on the theory alone, we just want to do the best we can for it. So like send us everything. We'll group chat it for a while and we'll send you every possible SKU we can. We'll just work it with you. Like, how fun is it if we can get this done with you? It's like we did it. We love doing that. So like, yeah, it's me and Phil in particular, like, this is what we do all day. So definitely let us know. We'd love to help you work this if you're looking to like pull up your team and actually kind of figure it out. Maybe we can work something with you.
You know what I want to do next week instead of a second half of the draft?
What you got?
I want to, because we're going to do our Friday night mocks this summer. I know you're going to run those with Mike.
Yeah,
I think I want to do, let's do a 12 team. Let's do a single quarterback because the quarterbacks in this class are dog shit. Let's do a 12 team single quarterback 10 round
startup,
full PPR startup.
Love it.
Let's do a draft next Friday.
You're gonna see some things. In the most recent startup data and the live startup, the high dollar, like like 1,000 or 100 and stuff, like the stuff that's streamed on some popular channels I've seen. The startup rankings really make me wonder. They've changed a few of my rookie picks. Certainly, when you see where
I want to do it,
some guys go, other people. I've got some takes for that show. There's some interesting ones. One, Drake May is like
hot.
Wow.
I just traded Drake May. I traded Drake May in a league, in my main dynasty league. I traded him away because I was able to get up to Josh Allen. That's the only reason I did it. The guy's a Patriots fan. He wants May. His team's in a rebuild. He's trying to get younger. I've won the league 2 years in a row. So I'm in a very win now window. So I'm like, you know what? Let's go for a true dynasty and see if I can three-peat this thing. I've got Jamar Chase. I got Bijan. I got Gibbs. That team is, you've seen that roster. That team is loaded. And I don't have a high end. My quarterback room's it's Jordan Love. It's Anthony Richardson. It's Geno Smith. And it was Drake May. So it's like, basically those guys are just kind of getting me points. And the rest of my team is what's winning. So if I could added Allen into that group now. So yeah, it's the only reason I did it. But
yeah, I think we learn a lot about ourselves and our process during those. And it's fun.
Well, and I think it helps. I think it helps people, right? Like at the end of the day, like there's people that haven't done their rookie drafts, but we're also going to start into our Friday night mocks this summer, and we're going to get everybody going for best ball's already open. I don't do best ball this early. It's way too early for me. I'm not that much of a degenerate. But it's also just a good valuation of like, where is the market right now this early in the pre-season. So, all right, I'll get that set up. We went way longer than we should have and way longer than I thought we would tonight, but this was a great show. Appreciate you being here as always. I will see you next Friday. We will get some folks in. It will be a live. If those are listening, those are watching, we will be doing next Friday a live draft. It will be 12 team single quarterback. Let's go ahead and do TEP. Let's do TEP on that one. We'll do full PPR, tight end premium.
You do half premium or full premium?
Half premium. And we'll get some folks so that we will know a computer and like we always do. And we'll fill it up and we'll go from there. So it'll be fun.
That'll be fun. Yeah, I like that.
Well, for everybody here at Get Right Fantasy Network, thanks for tuning in to an episode of The Extra Point here on a Friday night. We appreciate y'all spending your Friday night with us. Have a great weekend. Enjoy, and we will see y'all next week. Before we roll, Kendall, anything you want to finish up with or otherwise?
Just stay tuned. We got a lot of exciting updates coming. Just stay tuned. We got fun stuff coming. Best thing I can say is the one thing I can say is we have a really cool, like I'm new to this. I guess Phil's technically new to this as well, but like a really cool kind of loyal crowd following we have going on here. It's pretty fun. I think it's kind of a fun little community. Don't forget that we're actually not very hard to reach, and we don't have 2 million fans. So if you have like, hey, I'm going through my draft and like I have a tough pick or whatever, we're really easy to reach, and we actually care about. We're not famous or anything, so we actually will help because this is what we do. So
at P Ruskin on Sleeper, you can find me.
Yeah, hit us at Sleeper or X. We're on X too. That's easy. And look, selfishly, us break the wall. It helps our engagement too. When you ask us questions on X, other people see that you kind of trust us. So that's like really helpful. We would love to engage you. Anything you have for us, we'll pour it out. If it's a really like we were just doing with Tito, how we get this trade done, let us know. We'll talk about it. Cool. Appreciate you guys.
All right, we out.
Wanted to write fantasy is the play. Marking nothing, but I tune in every Friday. Strategies provided, I will lock in every way. So go